In today's video, you'll witness a remarkable experience undertaken by one of the world's wealthiest individuals, Elon Musk. He embarked on a venture that will profoundly reshape our perspectives on societal values, respect, and empathy. Throughout this narrative, you'll be captivated by his actions, but the most astonishing element unfolds at the conclusion. If you believe you've seen it all, prepare to be astounded by the climax. Musk's approach will fundamentally alter your understanding of humanity. Stay tuned, because what you're about to see will linger in your thoughts for a considerable time. Let's delve into this. Elon Musk, the visionary behind Tesla and SpaceX, is renowned for his groundbreaking ideas and transformative abilities, turning dreams into tangible realities. He has consistently been a focal point, surrounded by affluence, technology, and power. However, in an unexpected gesture, he chose to relinquish all of this for a day, embarking on an experience designed to challenge his own perception of society. He made the decision to disguise himself as a homeless individual, donning worn clothing and carrying only a worn satchel, and for a brief period, he lived as someone with nothing. His objective wasn't simply to observe the behavior of those around him, but to experience firsthand how society treats those perceived as invisible. Such a bold act might seem unconventional or even eccentric, but for Musk, it was a method of exploring truths rarely encountered by the wealthy and powerful. He sought to ascertain whether genuine empathy still existed, or if outward appearance and social standing dictated everything. What Elon didn't know was that this journey would yield profoundly impactful answers he would never forget. Social inequality is a persistent concern for Elon Musk. He recognized that while he enjoyed comfort and wealth, millions globally struggled daily for survival. The chasm between the privileged and the underprivileged deeply intrigued him. He pondered the extent to which society truly cared for the less fortunate. Musk contemplated the prejudices that shape human interactions, how we judge one another based on appearances, clothing, or social standing. He questioned whether empathy and compassion remained vital values, or if they had been supplanted by indifference and discrimination. It was during one of these reflections that Elon decided to act. He required authentic answers, something statistics or reports couldn't provide. He needed to directly experience this disparity. How would people treat him if he weren't a billionaire, but simply an ordinary individual facing hardship? This question echoed in his mind. To answer it, he decided to temporarily relinquish his identity, his fame, and his power for a day. He would become just another anonymous person, unseen by society. This marked the beginning of his preparation for this extraordinary experience. He meticulously planned the details of his experiment, aiming to understand how appearance and social standing shape human interactions, not just from a distance, but by personally experiencing the treatment afforded to someone with limited resources or perceived insignificance. The question that persistently haunted him was straightforward yet profound. How would people treat me if I weren't a billionaire, but simply an ordinary person in need? To achieve this, Elon resolved to disappear, to temporarily step outside his own world. He would don worn clothes, alter his appearance, and act like a person on the streets, without the luxury cars, security, or any outward indication of his true identity. He would simply be an ordinary man, seated in a restaurant where no one would recognize him. His plan was direct but laden with implications. How would people react to his presence? Would he be ignored, helped, or treated with disdain? With this resolve, he left behind everything that defined him as Elon Musk and assumed the role of an ordinary individual, confronting the realities of the world in his humble disguise. Elon Musk ventured into the city center, seeking a prestigious restaurant known for its sophisticated atmosphere, frequented by entrepreneurs, celebrities, and the social elite. As he approached the entrance, he felt the watchful eyes of security personnel turned toward him. Upon reaching the door, a staff member stepped forward, blocking his entry with a polite yet firm gesture. "Good afternoon, sir. May I help you?" the man inquired, assessing him from head to toe with a look of suspicion. Elon, maintaining his assumed role, responded in a calm voice, "I would like a table to eat." There was a moment of awkward silence. The staff member glanced inside the restaurant, as if seeking approval from a colleague or management. "I'm sorry, sir, but we are very busy at the moment. Reservations are necessary, and we have no tables available now." Elon knew this wasn't true. Through the large glass windows, he could see several empty tables, elegantly arranged and awaiting customers. Nevertheless, he calmly persisted, "I would truly like something to eat. It won't take long." Another staff member, seemingly of higher rank than the first, approached. After a brief exchange in hushed tones, the second man looked at Elon with a mixture of disdain and condescension. "This isn't exactly the kind of place that caters to someone in your situation. Perhaps you should try a more accessible establishment." The rejection was clear, and Elon felt the weight of prejudice in every word. Yet, he didn't give up. He knew the experiment had only just begun. As an unrecognized individual, he would be judged solely by his appearance and the assumptions others made about him. While Elon remained outside, more patrons entered, dressed in elegant attire, carrying designer handbags and accessories. They passed him with quick, wary glances, some frowning, others completely averting their eyes, as if he were invisible. Within the restaurant, hushed voices began to rise, audible enough for Elon to hear. "What is he doing here?" a woman whispered to the man beside her, adjusting her designer handbag. "I don't know, but this place is definitely not for him," the man responded, not bothering to lower his voice. Another patron, seated near the window, turned to a waiter and commented impatiently, "They really should be more careful about who they allow in the door. It spoils the experience for everyone." Elon observed the reactions around him carefully. Some customers looked at him with evident discomfort, but said nothing. Others simply ignored his presence, engrossed in their conversations and meals. A waiter, passing nearby, hesitated upon seeing him, but avoided eye contact, hurrying away. More than disdain, it was the indifference that struck Elon most. He understood that for many of those people, he was merely an inconvenience, an insignificant detail in their day. In that moment, he realized that prejudice wasn't just about spoken words, but also about deafening silences and actions that spoke louder than any phrase. While other staff members avoided interaction, a younger waiter, seemingly early in his career, approached. Recognizing the situation, he didn't exhibit discomfort or suspicion. He was clearly less apprehensive about dealing with someone outside the restaurant's typical clientele. With a hesitant smile, the waiter approached Elon, pausing for a moment before speaking. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, with a kindness that contrasted with the coldness of others. Elon, surprised by the attitude, sat down and smiled faintly. "Yes, I would like a glass of water, please." The waiter nodded and stepped away, returning quickly with a glass of water. He placed the drink in front of Elon and, without waiting for a response, sat in the chair next to him, creating an unusual and relaxed atmosphere for a high-end restaurant. "I'm always curious about people's stories," the waiter said with a genuine smile, attempting to engage Elon in conversation. "What brings you here today?" Elon, maintaining his disguise, looked at him and replied calmly, still impressed by the young man's attitude, "Life is complicated. Sometimes we need a little silence and a quiet place to think." The waiter, visibly interested, wasn't satisfied with the vague response and continued the conversation, seeking to understand more about the man's life and work. Elon, hesitant for a moment, decided to continue with the charade. "I'm someone trying to find their way, like many of us." The waiter patiently listened, unhurried, while other staff members watched from a distance, clearly disconcerted by the newcomer's demeanor. Even with the management's watchful eyes, the young man seemed determined to treat Elon with respect and dignity, regardless of his appearance. After finishing his meal, Elon felt the moment to reveal his true identity had arrived. He observed the environment, the faces of the people, the way they interacted, the noticeable distance some maintained, and the indifference of others. The experiment had touched him more deeply than he imagined. The contrast between how people treated someone without resources and those with status and wealth was clearer than ever. He wanted not just to leave the restaurant, but to leave a message, a reflection that would remain in everyone's minds. With surprising calm, Elon began to remove his disguise. First, he took off the false beard, strategically placed to conceal his appearance. His fingers trembled slightly, not from nervousness, but from the intensity of the moment. He knew what he was about to do would change everything, but he was determined to continue. Slowly, he removed the worn coat, revealing the clothes he actually wore underneath. The process was deliberate, as if he were shedding an invisible weight. He then removed his hat, carefully arranging his hair. He looked at the waiter, who was still stunned, unsure of what to do. The young waiter, who had been the only one to treat him with dignity throughout the experience, was now completely astonished, his eyes wide with disbelief. He didn't know what to say. The atmosphere, once filled with laughter and soft conversations, now seemed frozen. The clinking of glasses and the low murmur of conversations ceased. The restaurant fell into absolute silence, as if time had stood still. Elon, maintaining a calm and gentle demeanor, looked directly at the waiter and said with a subtle smile, "I truly appreciate your kindness. I am Elon Musk." The impact of the revelation was immediate. The waiter was completely stunned, speechless for several seconds. His eyes were fixed on Elon, unable to process what he had just heard. He glanced around the restaurant, seeking an explanation, but the expressions on the faces of the patrons were pure astonishment. Some began to whisper among themselves, trying to understand what was happening. Others stared in disbelief at the man before them. The restaurant manager, monitoring the situation from a distance, approached quickly, her expression a mixture of confusion and panic. She tried to articulate something, but her words came out disjointed and disordered. "Sir Musk, we didn't," she began, trying to find an explanation for what had just transpired, but her voice faltered. Elon interrupted her, not with anger or reproach, but with a gentle chuckle, as if relieved to finally be able to share his message. "Don't worry. I'm not here to cause trouble. What truly impressed me wasn't what you did, but how society in general treats those without recognizable faces or famous names, the indifference, the distance. That's what touched me today." The manager fell silent, as if his words had struck something deep within her. She looked at him, finally understanding what he meant, but unsure how to respond. Around the table, the murmur of surprise filled the space. People were beginning to grasp what had actually happened, and the weight of the message began to settle. The other staff members, who had previously avoided interaction, were now visibly disconcerted. A more senior waiter approached, his expression tinged with remorse. "Sir Musk, I didn't know," he stammered, shame evident in his voice. He looked at Elon with a mixture of guilt and respect, as if understanding the gravity of what had just occurred. Elon, without any sign of anger or reproach, smiled gently. "Don't apologize. What matters here is the lesson we can all learn. People who are seen as different, less important, or invisible by society deserve the same respect, the same dignity. The simple act of treating each other with empathy makes all the difference." The waiter who had initiated the conversation and shown respectful treatment approached once more, now with teary eyes. I didn't know you were you. I just saw someone needing help, and that's all I could do." He spoke with touching sincerity. Elon placed a hand on his shoulder, with a genuine smile. "And that's more than many do. You were the only person here who treated me like a human being, and that's what matters." The scene around them seemed to come to a standstill. The manager and other staff were now in reflective silence, trying to grasp the impact of their actions and judgments. The patrons who had been indifferent or suspicious of Elon were now in quiet shock, some with flushed faces, others with fixed gazes, reflecting on what they had just witnessed. Some stood up and apologized to Elon, but he simply looked at them calmly, making them understand that true change lay in how everyone could relate to one another. Before leaving, Elon gave a final look at the waiter who had treated him with respect. He nodded to him with a subtle smile, a gesture of acknowledgement for his empathetic behavior. The lesson was clear, and in that moment, Elon Musk's words echoed louder than any public speech he could have delivered. He understood that the impact he sought to leave wasn't just in his words, but in his actions and the opportunity offered to the waiter. As he left, the words he had spoken echoed in the air, and in the ensuing silence, each person there began to reflect on their own conduct and the choices they could make regarding others. The experiment by Elon Musk, far from ending with his departure, left an indelible mark, a reminder that true wealth lies in how we treat others, not in what we possess. Reflect on what you've heard. Consider how you've treated those around you. Recall instances where, perhaps unknowingly, you judged someone based on appearance, social standing, or clothing. And when someone you least expected showed unexpected kindness, did you recognize it? Elon Musk's story, disguised as an ordinary man without resources, reminds us that empathy and respect should not be exceptions, but the norm. Each of us, regardless of what we possess or the image we project, deserves to be treated with dignity. In this fast-paced world, where appearances often dictate, it's easy to forget that behind every face lies a story, a human being with their struggles, dreams, and challenges. Would you want to be judged for a moment or for the image you projected today? I challenge you to look at the people around you differently. Instead of seeing only what they have or how they are dressed, try to see who they truly are, people like you, deserving of the same respect and compassion. True change begins when we look at others not with critical eyes, but with hearts open. Are you ready to change the way you see the world? Are you ready to make kindness and empathy the cornerstones of your daily interactions? Remember, what you offer the world returns to you in ways you never imagined. Compassion costs nothing, but its impact can be immeasurable. If each of us chooses to be more empathetic, we can create a world where respect and humanity prevail.